Hello, guys and gals, and this is part 16 of our reading of the Harvard Classics. And we're going to go over what the Harvard Classics actually are. The Harvard Classics consist of the Apology, Phaedo, and Credo of Plato, translated by Benjamin Jowett, and we've read those already. The Golden Sayings of Epictetus, translated by Hastings Crossley. We are currently reading those. And the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, translated by George Long, and we will be reading those at a future time. Edited by Charles W. Eliot, LLD, with introductions and notes. And we have the copyright information here, which clearly says that it's copyright 1980, 1937, and 1907 by Grolier Enterprises Corporation, and it's manufactured in the United States. And we are going to continue with the Golden Sayings. We were on number 47, I believe. It's getting hard to read these Roman numerals, so I don't remember my Roman numerals all that well. But okay. So, we were on 47, which is right here. In theory, it is easy to convince an ignorant person. In actual life, men are only objects to offer themselves to be convinced, but hate the man who has convinced them. Whereas Socrates used to say that we should never lead a life Whereas Socrates used to say that we should never lead a life not subjected to examination. Number 48. This is the reason why Socrates, when reminded that he should prepare for his trial, answered, "Thinkest thou not that I have been preparing for it all my life? In what way? I have maintained that which in me lay. How so? I have never secretly or openly done a wrong unto any." Okay. And we are ready for 49. In which character dost thou now come forward? As a witness summoned by God. Come thou, saith God, and testify for me, for thou art worthy of being brought forward as a witness by me. Is aught that is outside thy will either good or bad? Do I hurt any man? Have I placed the good of each in the power of any other than himself? What witness dost thou bear to God? I am in evil state, master. I am undone. None careth for me. None giveth me aught. All men blame, all speak evil of me. And this the witness thou wilt bear, and do dishonor to the calling wherewith he hath called thee, because he hath done thee so great honor, and deemed thee worthy of being summoned to bear witness. Is so great a cause? And we are to 50. I think L is 50. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that L is 50. Okay. Number 50. Whilst thou have been speak good of them. And when thou hast learned to speak good of them, try to do good unto them. And thus thou wilt reap in return their speaking good of thee. 51. When thou goest into any of the great, remember that another from above sees what is passing, and that thou shalt please him rather than man. He therefore asks thee, in the schools, what didst thou call exile, imprisonment, bonds, death, and shame? I call them things indifferent. What dost thou call them now? Are they at all changed? No. Is it then thou that art changed? No. Say then, what are things indifferent? Things that are not in our power. Say then, what follows? That things which are not in our power are nothing to me. Say also what things you hold to be good. A will such as it ought to be, and and a right use of things of sense. And what is the end? To follow thee. 52. That Socrates should ever have been so treated by the Athenians. Slave, why say Socrates? Speak of the thing that it is. That even then the poor body of Socrates should have been dragged away and haled by main force to prison. That even hemlock should have been given to the body of Socrates, and that should have breathed its life away. Do you marvel at this? Do you hold this unjust? Is it for this that you accuse God? Had Socrates no compensation for this? Where then for him was the idea good? Whom shall we hearken to, you or him? And what says he? Anytus and Meletus may put me to death, or injure me is beyond their power. And again, if such be the will of God, so let it be. Yeah. Those two, Anytus and Meletus, were the accusers of Socrates. And we already read that in the Apology by Plato. Anyways, it says here, number 53. Nay, young man, for heaven's sake, but once thou hast heard these words, go home and say to thyself, it is not Epictetus that has told me these things. How indeed should he? No, it is some gracious God through him. Else I would never have entered his head to tell me them. He that is not used to speak to any one thus, he that is not used to speak is not used to speak to anyone thus. Well then, let us not lie under the wrath of God, but be obedient unto him. Nay, indeed, if a raven by its croaking bears thee any sign, it is not the raven, but God that sends the sign through the raven. And if he signifies anything to thee through human voice, will he not cause the man to say these words to thee, that thou mayst know the power of the divine? How he sends a sign to some in one way, and to others in another, and on the greatest and highest manners of all signifies his will through the noblest messenger. What else does the poet mean? I spake unto him erst myself, and sent Hermes the shining one to check and warn him, the husband not to slay nor woo the wife. Number 54. In the same way, my friend Heraclitus, who had a trifling suit about a petty farm at Rhodes, first showed the judges that his cause was just, and then at the finish cried, I will not entreat you, nor do I care what sentence you pass. It is you who are on your trial, not I. And so he ended the case. Let me see if there's a note here. Number 9. Okay. Or so he lost the case. Okay, so he lost the case because he had an outburst. Okay. Okay, now we are to 55. As for us, we behave like a herd of deer. When they flee from the huntsman's feathers, aka arrows, colored feathers fixed to ropes partly surrounding the cover. Okay, I wasn't aware of that. I'm glad for these notes. So let's read this again. As for us, we behave like a herd of deer. When they flee from the hunter's feathers in a fright, which way do they turn? What haven of safety do they make for? Why, they rush upon the nets, and thus they perish by confounding what they should fear with that wherein no danger lies. Not death or pain is to be feared, but the fear of death or pain. Well, Well said the poet thereafter, death has no terror, only a death of shame. Now we have 56. How is it that certain external things are said to be natural, and others contrary to nature? Why, just as it might be said, if we stood alone and apart from others, a foot, for instance, I will allow it is natural. It is natural. No, wait. I will allow it is natural should be clean. But if you take it as a foot and as a thing which does not stand by itself, I will beseem it, if need be, to walk if the mud, to walk in the mud, to tread on thorns, and sometimes even to be cut off for the benefit of the whole. The whole body. Okay, well, wait. So wait, they're talking about an infected foot. Okay, I see. Wait, let me rephrase this. Okay. Okay. And as a thing which does not stand by itself, then will beseem it, if need be, to walk in the mud or tread on thorns, and sometimes even to be cut off for the benefit of the whole body. Else it is no longer a foot. In some such way we should conceive of ourselves also. What art thou, a man? Looked at as standing by thyself and separate, it is natural for thee in health and wealth long to live. But looked at as a man, and only as a part of a whole, it is for that whole's sake that thou shouldst at one time fall sick, or another brave the perils of the sea, again know the meaning of want, and perhaps die an early death. Why then repine? Knowest thou not that as the foot is no more a foot if detached from the body, so thou is like a case art no longer a man? For what is a man? A part of a city, first of the city of God and man, next of that which ranks nearest it, a miniature of the universal city. In such a body, in such a world enveloping us, among lives like these, such things must happen to one another. Thy part, then, being here, is to speak, and these things as is meet, and is to speak these things as is meet, and to order them as befits the matter. We're ready for 57, it looks like. Okay, 57. That was a good reply which Diogenes made to a man who asked him for letters of recommendation. That you are a man he will know when he sees you. Whether a good or bad one, he will know if he has any skill in discerning the good and the bad. But if he has none, he will never know, though I write to him 1,000 times. It is as though a piece of silver money desires to be recommended to someone to be tested. If the man be a good judge of silver, he will know the coin will tell its own tale. Number 58. Even as the traveler asks his way of him that he meets, inclined in no wise to bear to the right rather than to the left, for he desires only the way leading whither he would go, or should we come unto God as to a guide, even as we use our eyes without admonishing them to show us some things rather than others, but content to receive the images of such things as they present unto us. But as it is, we stand anxious, watching the victim, and with the voice of supplication call upon the augur. Master, have mercy on me. Vouchsafe unto me a way of escape. Slave, would you then have aught else than what is best? Is there anything better than what is God's good pleasure? Why, as far as in you lies, would you corrupt your judge and lead your counsel astray? Number 59. Yeah. God is beneficent, but the good also is beneficent. It should seem then that when the real nature of God, that where the real nature of God is, there too is to be found the real nature of the good. What then is the real nature of God? Intelligence, knowledge, right, reason. Here then, without more ado, seek the real nature of the good. For surely thou dost not seek it in a plant or in an animal that reasoneth not. Number 60. Seek then the real nature of the good in that without whose presence thou wilt not admit the good to exist in aught else. What then? Are not these other things also works of God? They are, but not preferred to honor, nor are they portions of God, but thou art a thing preferred to honor. Thou art thyself a fragment torn from God. Thou hast a portion of him within thyself. How is it then that thou dost not know thy high descent? Dost not know whence thou comest? When thou eatest, wilt they not remember who thou art that eatest, and whom thou feedest? In relations, in exercise, in discussion, knowest thou not that it is a God whom thou feedest, a God whom thou exercisest, a God whom thou bearest about with thee? O miserable! And thou perceivest it not. Thinkest thou that I speak of a God of silver or gold that is without thee? Nay, thou bearest him within thee, all unconscious, all unconscious of polluting him with thoughts impure and unclean deeds. Were an image of God present, thou wouldst not dare to act as thou dost, yet when God himself is present within thee, beholding and hearing all, thou dost not blush to think such thoughts and do such deeds. O thou that art insensible of thine own nature, and lies under the wrath of God. Number 61. Why then are we afraid when we send a young man from the schools into active life? He should indulge his appetites intemperately, lest he should debase himself by ragged clothing, or be puffed up by fine raiment? Knows he not the God within him? Knows he not with whom he is starting on his way? Have we patience to hear him say to us, would I had thee with me rather? Wait. This wording is really challenging. Okay. Have we patience to hear him say to us, would I had thee with me? Hast thou not God where thou art, and having him dost thou still seek for any other? Would he tell thee aught else than these things? Why wert thou a statue of Phidias, and Athena, or a Zeus? Thou wouldst bethink thee both of thyself and thine artificer. And hast thou any sense, thou wouldst strive to do no dishonor to thyself or him that fashioned thee, nor appear to beholders in unbefitting guise. But now, because God is thy maker, is that why thou carest not if what sort thou shalt show thyself to be? Yet how different the artists and their workmanship. What human artist's work, for example, has in it the faculties that are displayed in fashioning it. It is aught but marble, bronze, gold, or ivory. Nay, when the Athena of Phidias has put forth her hand and received therein a victory, in that attitude she stands forevermore. But God's work moves and breathes, and they use and judge the things of sense. The workmanship of such an artist, wilt thou dishonor him? Aye, when he not only fashioned thee, but placed thee like a ward in the care and the guardianship of thyself alone, wilt thou not only forget this, but also do dishonor to what is committed to thy care? If God has entrusted thee with an orphan, wouldst thou have thus neglected him? He hath delivered thee to thine own care, saying, I have none more faithful than myself. Keep this man for me, such as nature hath made him, modest, faithful, high-minded, a stranger to fear, to passion, to perturbation. Such will I show myself to you all. What, exempt from sickness also, from age, from death? Nay, but accepting sickness, accepting death, as becomes a god. Number 62. This one is super short. No labor, according to Diogenes, is good, but that which aims at producing courage and strength of soul rather than of body. Number 63. A guide on finding a man who has lost his way brings him back to the right path. He does not mock and jeer at him and then take himself off. You also must show the unlearned man the truth, and you will see that he will follow. But so long as you do not show it him, you should not mock, but rather feel your own incapacity. Number 64. This is a long one. We've got time. It was the first and most striking characteristic of Socrates never to become heated in discourse, never to utter an injurious or insulting word. On the contrary, he persistently bore insult from others and thus put an end on the fray. If you care to know the extent of his power in this direction, read Xenophon's Banquet, and you will see how many quarrels he put an end to. That is why the poets are right in so highly commending this faculty. Quickly and wisely, with all, even bitter feuds will be settled. Nevertheless, the practice is not very safe at present, especially in Rome. One who adopts it, I need not say, ought not carry it out in an obscure corner, but boldly accost, if occasion serves, some personage of rank or wealth. Can you tell me, sir, to whose care you entrust your horses? I can. Is it to the first comer who knows nothing about them? Certainly not. Well, what of the man who takes care of your gold and silver, or your raiment? He must be experienced also. And your body, have you ever considered about entrusting it to anyone's care? Of course I have. And no doubt to a person of experience as a trainer, a physician? Surely. Are these things the best you possess, or have you anything more precious? What can you mean? I mean that which employs these, which weighs all things, which takes counsel and resolve. Oh, you mean the soul. You take me rightly. I do mean the soul. By heaven, I hold that far more precious than all else I possess. Can you show me, then, what care you bestow on your soul? On the soul, rather. For it can scarcely be thought that a man of your wisdom and consideration in the city would suffer your most precious possession to go to ruin through carelessness and neglect. Certainly not. Well, do you take care of it yourself? Did anyone teach you the right method, or did you discover it yourself? Now, here comes the danger. First, that the great man may answer, why, what is that to you, my good fellow? Are you my master? And then if you persist in troubling him, him may raise his hand and strike you. It is a practice of which I was myself a warm admirer, until such experiences as these befell me. Number 65. When a youth was giving himself airs at the theatre and saying, I am wise, for I have conversed with many wise men, Epictetus replied, I too have conversed with many rich men, yet I am not rich. Brilliant. I think that's a good place to stop this, actually. We have a little bit of a long one here coming up at number 66. That was brilliant. Let me read that again just because it's brilliant. When a youth was giving himself airs in the theatre and saying, I am wise, for I have conversed with many wise men, Epictetus replied, I too have conversed with many rich men, yet I am not rich. I love that. That is brilliant. That's probably my favorite quote so far. But anyways, that was number 65, and I'll remember that quote for sure. Okay, so we have been reading from the Harvard Classics, and we made it to number 66. Let me just write this down real quick. Golden sayings. Number 66 is what we're on. Okay, so we have been reading from the Harvard Classics, the golden sayings of Epictetus. Now, if you like this content, make sure you like and subscribe, ring the bell so you know when I upload. Also, if you want to support me in any way, or if you want to join the Discord server, all the information will be in the description below. And as always, thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day.